The one thing on everyone's mind is how do we respond to the coronavirus and how do we draw down the funding that's available to get everyone back to work. Today on Get Grant Ready with Me, I'm going to discuss funding that is available through the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for this very reason. Come on, let's get grant ready. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement has over $32 million available through the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Grant Program. Today, I'll talk about some of the things that you'll need to do to make sure that you can be in line to draw down some of that funding. First, check out the link below where I'll have a list of all of the agencies, local governments, as well as some universities that are eligible to receive this funding. Funds that are available through this program must be utilized to prevent, prepare, and respond to the coronavirus. Available projects and purchases include, but are not limited to, overtime, equipment, including law enforcement and medical equipment, hiring, supplies, training, travel expenses, particularly related to the distribution of resources to the most impacted areas, and addressing the medical needs of inmates in state, local, and tribal prisons or jails. Applications for this grant are due on July 1st, 2020. There is no match required. You have 24 months to spend the funding that is allocated to you, and you can date your expenses back to January 20th of this year. So everything that you've purchased for coronavirus from this point back to January 2020 are eligible for reimbursement. And then you have up until January 31st, 2022 to spend out the rest of your funding. So that's the things that you have purchased in the past, as well as things that you have to purchase for long-term recovery. Let's get into some of the things that you'll want to begin to do in order to get ready. The first thing to think about is that this is funding that is passed down to the state from the federal government. So you would have to abide by all of the federal policies and procedures. If you have not applied for a federal grant in a while, this is a great time for you to log into sam.gov and check to make sure that your registration is up to date. If you have an expired registration in sam.gov, renewing it is a very quick process, very quick turnaround, but you want to make sure that you have that together before you submit that application. This funding is used to supplement and not supplant. And what does that mean? Supplement means that you are purchasing things that you will not get reimbursed from anyone else. We know that there has been a federally declared disaster for this, which means that FEMA will come in and reimburse you for some of the supplies that you've purchased and some of the overtime hours and things like that you've already spent for coronavirus. If you get that reimbursement from FEMA to cover those expenses that you've made, then you would not be able to use this funding to also cover those expenses. So you would need to decide which way you would like to go as far as getting reimbursed for those expenses that you've already incurred. Secondly, there are some things that need pre-approval. The first is any purchase that you make over $500,000. Now, as I said before, the FDLE has already decided the agencies that are eligible for funding, and they've decided the amount of which you're eligible for, and that will be linked down below. If you're one of the lucky ones that has an allocation of $500,000 or more, you would need to have approval from FDLE before making that purchase. Second, if you want to purchase an unmanned aerial system, any drones, then you would need to make that purchase and make sure that you have approval from the Federal Aviation Administration prior to making that purchase. Thirdly, Any improvement to a building or construction project must be pre-approved. You have to ensure that you are compliant with the National Environmental Policy Act. So that would mean that you need to have an environmental survey conducted prior to making any improvements to any buildings or any type of construction projects. And thirdly, this might be the one that most people fall under, would be sole source. If you are purchasing something and no one else has that item, then there's a sole source form that we'll have to complete to show that you have taken the proper steps to make sure that you have looked at other competitors or potential competitors before purchasing that one item. So this grant is pretty straightforward. If you're on the list of local allocations, please submit your application. That money is right there for you. Remember, it's due July 1st of this year, and you can recover expenses that were incurred all the way back January 20th, 2020, and you have 2 years to spend the funding that is available to you. Start brainstorming, thinking of the things that you've spent already and the things that it would be great to purchase if you had the funding. Signage, gloves, sanitizers, masks, electronic boards, things to make sure that you're able to get your message out quickly to the public. All of those things that while you're in the recovery period, you thought, man, it'll be great if we had this. It'll make life easier. It'll make the community safer. And put that in this application. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me. Our email address is info@belltowergroup.org. I'll also have that information down at the bottom, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.